Mark Rogers TV here, joining you at 12:30 Eastern Time on National Signing Day. We'd like to run down the early signees from today. Obviously, a lot of top players still on the board. Just about 50 of the top 300 players still on the board entering National Signing Day this first Wednesday of February. Joining me for the first time, this is Mark of Mark Rogers TV. And we do a college football like nobody else. Just check out the videos. 98 media contributors just in 2017, some of the best bloggers and broadcasters across the country in college football. And we will show you that again tonight during our National Signing Day special coming up at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, hosted by Mike McDaniel. So again, I'd like to recap where we stand today. Going into today, we had the two top cornerbacks in the land, the two top cornerbacks, both from Plantation, Florida, American Heritage High School. Patrick Surtain, Tyson Campbell, still out there. They both have signed. They made their announcements early this morning. So I'm going to run down all the players in the 247 Sports 300 class that were still unsigned as of this morning and where they currently stand. We got Patrick Surtain. Of course, he is the gem, the cornerback out of Plantation, Florida. Had Clemson, LSU, and Miami on the board. We thought Miami was the big lean, but he signed with the Crimson Tide of Alabama to improve that Nick Saban class into the top 5 as we are just hours away from the conclusion of National Signing Day. Patrick Surtain, the number 6 overall player, according to 247 Sports. Again, the number 1 cornerback, the number 2 player in the state of Florida on the 247 board. Tyson Campbell, his running mate at cornerback. They've won 2 straight state championships there, going 27-0. He made the move to go to Georgia. Georgia, of course, reeling in an historic class here in 2018, and Tyson Campbell being the latest as of 8 o'clock this morning Eastern Time, the number 12 player in the 247 Sports rankings, number 2 cornerback, number 4 player in Florida. And as we run these down, I will pull up the live feed to make sure that I'm checking out some of your comments as we proceed. Don't know how long I'm going to be on this afternoon with some other commitments and so forth, but I see that we've got Jarek Hall on the line. What's going on, Mark? What do you think of Patrick Surtain's surprising move to Bama? I didn't expect it. All the sources I had, all the sources that are obvious and available to all of us online, had Surtain going to LSU. He's got ties there. He's got family there. But the LSU program is just not at the standard of Alabama. They're still going to reel in a top 12 to 15 recruiting class. But that Alabama brand name obviously paid dividends, and Nick Saban's ability to close, as Alabama has closed like no other program in recent years. Of course, Kirby Smart last year, and especially this year, closing like nobody else. Urban Meyer closing as well on a couple of his, primary targets early on today. Tyson Campbell, yes, chooses Georgia. So it's going to be Georgia, Alabama. That might be an SEC championship game that we see multiple times over the next 5 years with the way these two teams continue to recruit. Tyson Campbell, the number 4 player out of Florida, going to Georgia. Andrew Chatfield chooses Florida. He was the closing portion of the trifecta there from American Heritage High School, declaring his commitment in signing to Florida, the defensive end out of American Heritage High School. Nicholas Petit-Friere, offensive tackle from Tampa, Berkeley Prep. This was huge for Ohio State. This class is void of offensive tackles, and Ohio State got the guy that's rated the number 1 offensive tackle. Earlier, he had leans toward Florida, Alabama. It seemed to be that they were in the running, Notre Dame and Michigan as well, but Ohio State had the last official visit, and Urban Meyer made it count. Nicholas Petit-Friere, the number 7 player, according to 247 Sports. Number 7, regardless of position. Consider how important offensive tackle is. And then consider that is amplified this year, this particular recruiting class, because offensive tackles are not seen in the top 100. And usually we've got offensive tackles all over the place because it's a prime position and there's a ton of talent out there. But this particular class, void of offensive tackles, and Ohio State gets the best, and Nicholas Petit-Friere. We've got Graydon Farwell joining in. Love it. Got to see something about his mentality and that his goal is to win. So, yeah, Patrick Surtain wants to win. He goes to Florida, or he goes to Alabama over Florida, Miami, and some other schools that he had, of course, LSU and Clemson. And most of us thought, me included, it was going to be LSU. I apologize if I don't get to all the comments. I've got a screen that's a little bit removed from me that I've got to go off screen to catch some of these comments. Again, tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern time for about 4 to 5 hours, National Signing Day coverage here on Mark Rogers TV. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We cover college football like nobody else. Churn out videos each and every day on the game that we love. Tanner McKee, we just saw his announcement about an hour ago. Quarterback out of Corona, California, chooses Stanford. This is not a surprise. All the predictors were pointing towards Stanford, but he did have Alabama, Texas, Washington, and Texas A&M on the board. Tanner McKee chooses the Stanford Cardinal. Interesting there, of course, for the 46th rated prospect out of the 247 rankings, is that he goes on a Mormon mission for the next 2 years. So he's not going to be in play until the 2020 season at the earliest. But Stanford quarterbacking with West and Costello in the fold in good shape until Tanner McKee jumps onto the scene after his Mormon mission. Solomon Tuliaupupu, inside linebacker, Santa Ana, Notre Dame, UCLA, USC on the board. His announcement should have come just a few minutes ago, but I didn't get the signing for Solomon Tuliaupupu, the inside linebacker out of Santa Ana, Notre Dame, UCLA, USC on the board, the 86th prospect on the 247 board. All right, do you see many more surprise moves from some of the top unsigned recruits? Well, maybe as we filter through, Jarek, I will look to see what we've got here and if I expect any surprises. Tommy Bush just announced his signing with Georgia, the wide receiver out of Schertz, Texas. He bypasses Baylor, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss and Michigan State. You would think the Spartans are going to have all sorts of problems closing or even keeping some of the commits that they had, considering the situation. We couldn't expect anybody to sign with Michigan State today of supreme value. Again, Tommy Bush, number 198, ESPN and 247, not in agreement in terms of his value at wide receiver. He's the number 10 wide receiver according to ESPN. He's number 37 according to 247 Sports. Justin Ross, wide receiver out of Phoenix City, Alabama. He's got Alabama, Auburn, and Clemson on the board. He's going to be choosing very soon, about 1 o'clock Eastern time. Justin Ross, number 45 player on the board, the top-rated player out of Alabama. Yeah, Surtain to Alabama. Erica Allen joins in. Yeah, the Dogs are still doing an amazing job. They've got the number 1 rated recruiting class. And I don't think it's extremely close because they have the elite players over Ohio State, but the Buckeyes, of course, with a tremendous class as well. Elijah Griffin, the one-time commit to UCLA, is choosing between USC, Tennessee, Oregon, and Alabama. That announcement should come in about a half hour. Elijah Griffin, top cornerback, the 28th rated player according to 247, number 3 cornerback in the nation. Devin Williams has his field narrowed down to Oregon versus USC. The athlete who's most likely going to play wide receiver at the next level out of Lancaster, California, the 6th rated prospect out of California, the number 6 athlete, Devin Williams, will announce at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Jacob Copeland, a lot of you out there can't wait to see what Jacob Copeland's going to do. The wide receiver out of Pensacola, who's got a plethora of schools still in the mix: Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. He's the number 14 rated player in Florida, the number 12 wide receiver according to 247. Ryan jumps in. Georgia got Campbell, Reese, Walker, and Bush. It is amazing, isn't it, what Kirby Smart is doing? But they're the chic program. So they're not only chic, like Michigan was chic a couple of years ago, but chic with an SEC championship and a national championship game appearance. So they got the substance to go along with the flash and the glitz something that Jim Harbaugh has yet to deliver, even though he's still going to have roughly a top 15 class. Maurice Washington will announce at 2 o'clock Eastern time, the running back out of Cedar Hill, Texas. He's got Arizona State and Nebraska on the board. At one point very recently, Herm Edwards at Arizona State had the worst ranked class, the lowest rated class out of any Power 5 team at number 75. Expect that to rise. He's on the trail of about 4 to 5 4 stars, and if he gets about half those, he should make a pretty good push here to close. A number of you have mentioned Otis Reese. Yes, Otis Reese, just a tremendous get for Georgia over Michigan. I think we all saw it coming after the early commit to Michigan. That grew stale, and Georgia gains another tremendous player in Otis Reese. How about Quay Walker, the outside linebacker out of Cordell, Georgia, has Bama, Georgia, and Tennessee. He has committed, I believe, to Georgia. That's the one I missed a marking here. So if somebody can fill me in on Quay Walker, outside linebacker out of Cordell, Georgia, number 2 outside linebacker in the nation, number 6 rated player in Georgia. Rick Sandage is expected very soon, about 2:30 Eastern time, to sign to South Carolina. All the predictors for Rick Sandage to South Carolina. He's the big defensive tackle out of Concord, North Carolina. He's the number 14 rated player at his position. He's the 6th rated prospect in North Carolina. Mario Goodrich as well, LSU, Clemson, Georgia on the line. I did not get his announcement either. Mario Goodrich, cornerback out of Lee Summit, Missouri. James Foster as well, quarterback who was expected to sign with LSU. Jamar Chase has LSU and Auburn on the board, and he's probably just minutes away from making his announcement. Jamar Chase, a wide receiver out of Louisiana, who is the 15th rated wide receiver, according to 247, was slated to make the announcement at 1 o'clock Eastern. Glenn Beal is still out there, tight end from New Orleans, who's got LSU and Texas A&M on the board. Bobby Brown went to Texas A&M. He had committed to Alabama. The defensive tackle goes to Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher is closing well. Jimbo Fisher, Florida's closing well as well with Dan Mullen. You see what Willie Taggart is doing. We had a lot of Florida State coverage on this week. If you caught James Cooper with us, who ran down the Florida State class, which is improving by the hour. All right, we've got Isaac Taylor Stewart. He's going to make his announcement soon. The cornerback out of San Diego, 4th rated cornerback, 4th rated player out of California. Let me get to some of your comments here. Let's see what we've got here. A death row. Ross and Waddle will go to Bama. Most likely, yes. Ryan Nell, Chris McLeod, Ross will go to the Tide, and Waddle will not. So we've got a disagreement right there between you two. You guys can fight it out until the announcement is made. I swear, Coach Mark Richt needs to put that wall around Florida's boundary. That is extremely difficult to do, Dennis. Mark Richt has done well with the number 7 class, but unfortunately, he's leaving Georgia, coming to Miami. He's going to be, to a certain extent, he's going to be rated against the top tier teams in the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, etc. But he's also going to be evaluated, judged against what Kirby Smart is doing in Georgia, and nobody is keeping up with Kirby Smart right now. Chris McLeod, do you see Ross and Waddle signing with Bama? Actually, I do. I know you guys have a disagreement there. We shall see. I am not a recruiting guru. If you've caught my channel for a number of years here, you know when it comes to pre-game analysis, post-game analysis, coaching decisions, coaching hires and fires, we're all over the instant analysis and bring the historic value as well on our ratings and rankings of college football. Across the board, the recruiting situation, that's why I bring in a ton of contributors, as we will tonight, starting at 5 o'clock Eastern time, to get the team reports from Ohio State, Miami, USC, UCLA. We've got a ton of people upcoming. We had 33 media contributors last National Signing Day night for our National Signing Day special. And we hope to do something close to it this year with Mike McDaniel hosting. I will not be around for that one. All right, Panay Sewell. Don't know if I'm pronouncing the young man's name correctly. The guard out of St. George, Utah, who's basically a USC commit, but has yet to sign. #2 guard in the country. #1 player out of Utah. Ashari Crosswell looks like he's going to Arizona State. He's the 10th rated safety in the nation out of Long Beach, California, a top 20 prospect out of that state as well. And we're waiting for his signing. We did just get a signing from William Barnes, guard out of Apopka, Florida. The #53 player in the nation, according to both ESPN and 247. They actually match on that one. #53 for William Barnes. He's the 5th rated guard. He's the #10 player out of Florida. North Carolina gets a huge signing right there. Jalen Waddle. A lot of you guys commenting on Jalen Waddle, the 39th rated player, according to 247 Sports, #5 wide receiver out of Bel Air, Texas. He's a top 3 player out of Texas. Where is he going to go? We talked about Maurice Washington makes his announcement very soon, 2 o'clock Eastern time, the running back out of Cedar Hill, Texas. Michael Thompson, 72nd rated player overall on the 247 board, defensive tackle out of St. Louis, Missouri. What do we have in for recent comments? Mario Short, 247 is the only one I follow. And that seems to be the standard. And they also give you the composite. So it's interesting to compare what 247 says as the forerunner, along with Rivals and Scout. And then they give you the composite. So it's the conglomeration. And based on everything I've ever read or seen, the 247 composite is the closest predictor to what we actually see the production on the field. All right, we also have Ryan jumping in with it's impossible to keep all Florida players in the state. There's just too many. Exactly. There was a study done, and we talked to Cam Underwood, State of the U, about this a couple of years ago. And actually, the number of players just in about a 3-county radius in southern Florida, including Broward County in particular, they produce 45 to 50 4-stars every year. And you only have like 20 or 22, 25 slots at the most at a particular school. So you can't even keep the top players if you're Miami in particular in the state of Florida in the southern region. Not even the southern portion of Florida can all go to Miami, even if they wanted to. So if Miami just gets half, not even half of the players in South Florida, then can run out and grab some of the guys that are better fits in other parts of the country and the South in particular. So I'm having computer issues here. Then Miami's going to be in great shape. Lawrence Keys, wide receiver out of New Orleans, has yet to sign. Brian Hightower, wide receiver, Bradenton, IMG, who's in the top 300 as well. Rasheed Walker, it appeared as though he was going to commit to Ohio State. He actually did commit to the Buckeyes and Urban Meyer, the 65th rated player, offensive tackle out of Waldorf, Maryland. We hear, though, that he's leaning heavily toward Penn State. If anybody can confirm that, I don't think that his signing has come down yet, but all indicators go to Penn State, even though he committed a couple weeks ago to Ohio State. Rasheed Walker out of Maryland, offensive tackle. Treshawn Harrison just announced about 90 minutes ago, the athlete out of Seattle. Here's the Willie Taggart connection from the West Coast down to Florida State. Athlete out of Seattle, Treshawn Harrison, signs with Florida State. Merlin Robertson, inside linebacker, the 8th rated player at his position, number 16 out of California. He has yet to sign out of Gardena, California. Jarris Brents out of Louisville. He's a cornerback, the 24th rated cornerback, 2nd rated player in Kentucky. He has yet to sign. Tennessee Patutu, defensive end out of Salt Lake City. All these players are top 300 players. Antoine Green, wide receiver, Rockledge, Florida. Jashawn Corbin, running back, Melbourne, Florida. None of these guys have officially signed yet. Tank Jenkins, guard out of Montgomery, Alabama, has chosen Texas A&M and has signed with Jimbo Fisher in the last hour. He's the number 256 recruit, 11th rated guard out of Alabama, 8th rated player in the state of Alabama, chooses Jimbo Fisher. Tayon Palmer's a cornerback out of Lawrenceville, Georgia. Again, a 300 player, has yet to sign. Dax Hollifield makes his commitment and signing to Virginia Tech, inside linebacker out of Shelby, North Carolina, the 8th-rated player at his position. Rasheed Walker already committed to Penn State, but has he signed? That's just what I was trying to find out, Ryan, if actually Rasheed Walker did sign. I have kind of limited access now that I've jumped online because I'm trying to watch the feed and look at your comments, and also using the other computer here to actually do the broadcast. So I've lost some connection, except for my phone, to what's going on here in the last 10 or 15 minutes since I've been on with you. Nicholas writes, what are the chances for Tennessee to be in the top 50 next year? If you're talking about the top 50 teams on the field, not talking recruiting, I think that's going to be somewhat difficult for Tennessee. But consider that Tennessee was nowhere near nearly as bad as what they were on the field this year. That just became a difficult situation for players to play through. They had better than 0-8 in the SEC talent. We all know that. Butch Jones recruited extremely well at Tennessee. The last few classes fell off, but very well. They have good talent. They should get back to a bowl game, I believe, with Jeremy Pruitt this year. 6 wins for the Vols. Haven't looked at the schedule, but that obviously is going to play into it as well. Just announced in the last half hour to 45 minutes, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, outside linebacker out of New Jersey, has chosen Ohio State over Nebraska. He's a top 16 player at his position, number 6 player out of the state of New Jersey. Again, 3 more players right here who have yet to sign. Mikel Salahuddin, I'm giving it a shot there. He's an all-purpose back out of Washington, D.C., who is committed to Pitt, number 1 player in the state, in the country's capital, the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Jeremiah Martin, weak side defensive end out of San Bernardino, 15th rated player at his position, number 35 in the state of California, has yet to sign. And another California player, tight end Michael Ezike, out of Ontario, California, the 13th rated player at his position, number 37 player in California. He has yet to sign. Fred Langston jumping on. You are awesome, Mark. Love your channel. Thank you, Fred. We're trying to pull it together and do the best we can. I'm on the road right now with some other things going on in my life. Just wanted to jump on and review the signings. I've been online ever since the coverage started on ESPNU and ESPN2 early this morning. So I thought, let's go through everybody who was left on the board, who was still on the board at the outset of National Signing Day, run through all of them, keep track of who's signed and who's still on the board. And then you can join us again at 5 o'clock Eastern time, which is just about just about 3 hours away, 4 hours away as I'm switching time zones. Just about 4 hours away, 5 o'clock Eastern time with Mike McDaniel. He's going to be on right here. So just go to MarkRogersTV.com, or if YouTube's your best destination, certainly do that as well. Please invite your family and friends who love college football to follow my channel and subscribe to it. And we deliver as much as we possibly can in the best quality that you will see for this type of outlet, where we are covering and scouring the nation with team reports constantly all over the place. So we appreciate it. I'm going to answer and look at some further comments and then probably jump off unless there's been any other signings, because I've gone through all the players that were on the board at the outset of the day. Also understand that Noah Boykin, who's a top cornerback, a 4-star, has signed with Notre Dame. That's a bit of a surprise. Don't know where he was rated exactly. Noah Boykin goes to Notre Dame. And again, our National Signing Day special starts at 5 o'clock Eastern time with Mike McDaniel. And I won't even go through the list of contributors he's going to have on. It's a ton of the people that you see on a regular basis covering all the major teams. We will get to as many as possible. And if there are teams I don't get to tonight, we will certainly seek out those contributors and talk about those teams and run down those classes and what they mean over the next week or two as we get you ready for spring football as well. Dennis, love your show, Mark. Go Canes. So I do have a Miami dedicated channel. I don't want you to leave my main Mark Rogers TV channel here, but I did dedicate a Miami channel, nothing but Miami content there, that's gained about 40 or 45 subscribers just in the last week. Mark Rogers TV Miami, if you just want to see the Canes. But if you just want to see all of college football, love all of college football, we get to it right here at Mark Rogers TV. West Virginia, neutral site. Oh, so we're talking about Tennessee's schedule. That's right. I just looked at this the other day. So, of course, they play the SEC Eastern Division. They always play Alabama. So the question is, who do you play out of conference for Tennessee? It's West Virginia, which is a winnable game, but they'll probably be a marginal underdog, something in the 3 to 7 point range, I would guess, on a neutral site against the Mountaineers. And then, of course, who do you play in the other division, which, again, as we just mentioned, it's always Alabama. This year, Tennessee's got to play Auburn. So that bowl game prediction of mine, we're going to hold up on that. If you followed me in other off seasons, you know that I don't make those final predictions until just a few days before opening kickoff. All right, Fred, I was disappointed in the cornerbacks, Surtain and Campbell. I was really hoping for at least one of them because we need to lock down or get a lockdown corner. Yeah, Fred, I was guessing, and it's a guess out of me, I'm not a recruiting guy, that Miami was going to get one of those two. And that's what we talked about. A lot of Miami fans commented, and they were so excited to get both of them. But I think both players, Campbell and Surtain, were very clear that they were not going to play at the same school. So then you were hoping that you would get one or the other. It really didn't matter. I know Surtain's rated slightly higher, but if you get the first-rated cornerback or the second, obviously you guys know from checking out the rankings, go back 5 years and pull up the top cornerbacks, you're going to have a number 15 cornerback who actually turned out to be the best. So they have to hit the field, and we have to see him play. But not get either one of them. For one to go to Alabama, one to Georgia, at least they stayed out of your conference. But Miami really needed to get one of those two players. Still, Canes fans feel good about a 7th-rated class right now. And it should stay that way. I don't see Miami breaking out with any big signings. I don't believe. They're going to have to hang on to Nesta Silvera and keep him away from Florida. They should be able to do that, but Dan Mullen is closing hard on Silvera. So happy Ohio State got, yes, Freire. Lost Carmen, first-ranked and #1 player in Ohio. K just got the first-ranked player in the nation at offensive tackle. That's a great job by Urban Meyer in the closing weeks, because Nicholas Petit-Freire was looking like it was going to be an Alabama-Florida situation. Notre Dame and Michigan were also there. But Ohio State and Urban Meyer took advantage of having the last official visit for Freire. He chose the Buckeyes. And again, as we talked about a few minutes ago, for those of you who weren't on 15 or 20 minutes ago, this offensive tackle class, listen to Tom Luganbill. He's explained it. This offensive tackle class is not strong. Therefore, it means even more to grab one of the top offensive tackles. And the Buckeyes got the guy that is considered, we emphasize, considered at this point to be the very best. Offensive tackle, defensive end, two of the primary positions. Cornerback, that's difficult to find. Those are the most sought after positions after quarterback. Again, defensive end, cornerback, offensive tackle, difficult. Those guys are special if they are elite at those positions. And if you can grab one of those guys, it means even more than at some of the other positions. Ryan says those 5 SEC games I mentioned are in a row by oh man. Jeremy Pruitt, God bless you. Whatever that was, it was West Virginia, Alabama, Auburn, and somebody else, a couple other good teams in there, South Carolina. It was pretty crazy. Yes, also Ohio State signs Urban to an extension, and Schiano comes back. It's a great day for Ohio State. Greg Schiano thought he was headed to the NFL. And as we've seen recently with Josh Daniels in New England, as he was offered by the Indianapolis Colts as the head coach, that the owner or the school, in this case with Schiano, sweetens the pot. It's sometimes just enough to keep somebody in play until they can get the right job at the next level. And believe me, Greg Schiano wants to be a head coach, and he is a type A personality, and he wants to run his own program eventually. But he understands that this puts him in prime position to do just that and do it where he wants to do it. Fred, and no, we got Silvera, Izard, Bethel, and Jordan Miller. So Silvera, according to Fred, is still in the fold and is actually signed. That's the distinction I was trying to make. I know that he was committed to Miami, but there was a lot of reporting out there that talked about Dan Mullen closing in on Silvera, possibly pulling him away at the last hour. All right, folks, I've run it all down the best I can do right now. I appreciate you jumping online with me. I know that this was impromptu and just at the last second, and you didn't have much of a fair warning what I was going to do here. In the future, as I've mentioned a number of times, I'm going to work out the issue with sending out live stream notifications. I would like to schedule these ahead of time so you know exactly what's coming. I'm going to deliver a schedule for each and every day to let you know what guests are going to be live at what times, or my own analysis and our discussion. And then that's going to allow you, when I have guests on, right now you get the recorded, edited version of the video discussion with the guests, but we're going to bring the guests on live, and you can interact with them and send in your questions and comments, and we'll read those live on the air. That's what we're going to do going forward, and we'll make those changes here in the next few weeks. For right now, I appreciate you jumping online with me here about noon, 12:15 Eastern time, something like that. I'm a few hours behind in the Mountain time zone, at least for the next week. And let me get to one or two more comments. Schiano will most likely be gone next year, but it'll be key to keep him one more year. Then Grinch, yes, Alex Grinch will step in as the main coordinator there for the Ohio State Buckeyes. All right, so remember, 5 o'clock Eastern time. I won't be here, but please, please join Mike McDaniel. You will get the same coverage. Mike is going to be joined by tons of guests with team reports from all over the place, starting at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Just join us right here where we are, whether that's you going to my YouTube channel where you typically go, or you can go MarkRogersTV.com. That redirects you right to YouTube and my front page as well. Please subscribe. And family and friends, do they love college football? Let them know we exist and we're around. And I always enjoy the comments and the suggestions as well on content. We will get to quarterback position battles. I have recorded a number of discussions just over the last week concerning quarterback position battles, and I have yet to release those. So those are coming, as well as a lot of other good stuff here upcoming after National Signing Day. And again, if we don't get to your favorite team or teams that you're interested in or rivals tonight, I'm tracking down a number of people for conversations and team reports all over the place, all over the country, all the conferences over the next couple of weeks. So we appreciate it, and I will see you next time, and take care and enjoy National Signing Day.